son of a bitch.
What's up, people? Welcome to another episode of Rewind. Today, it's double feature day, so I'm going to talk about two kick-ass action movies that are guaranteed to put hair on your chest. Ladies beware. Today we're discussing Predator from 1987 and the less favored Predator 2 from 1990. Spoilers are ahead, so if you haven't seen these movies, check them out, then pop back over here. With that said, let's move on to the obvious get to the chopper reference.
Get to the chopper!
It's pretty safe to say the original Predator movie is now viewed as a classic. I mean, I can't think of anyone who doesn't like the original Predator. In fact, I don't think I want to know someone who doesn't like the original Predator. I even did a quick search online and couldn't find a bad review of this movie. Lord knows I found tons of bad reviews for the sequels and the most recent reboot. Oh, and hey look, another Predator movie's on the way.
Bad idea.
Back to the original movie. Predator was directed by John McTiernan and written by Jim and John Thomas. Now I already mentioned that both Predator and Predator 2 are kick-ass action movies, but they also fit into the sci-fi and horror genres as well. The key ingredients, blood and spaceships, are seen in both movies, and that's good enough for me. The original Predator starred Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime. Arnold played Dutch, the leader of a badass team of commandos. They're sent on a mission in a remote Central American jungle to save survivors in guerrilla territory. It's funny because as the years go by and my brain turns into pudding, I mostly just remember the action that came later in the movie. Meaning Arnold's booby traps, the iconic reveal of the Predator's face, and of course, the final battle between Arnold and the Predator. But the thing is, even before we get to the Predator parts, there was a bunch of solid action early on which served as a great warm-up for the badassery to come. This movie also had a great supporting cast. The standouts for me were wrestling legend Jesse Ventura, who played Blaine, the loudmouth tough guy. Bill Duke was also very memorable as Mac, a grizzled Vietnam vet, and of course there was Carl Weathers. Most people likely know of Carl Weathers as Apollo Creed from the Rocky movies, Greef Karga from The Mandalorian, or for delivering comedy gold on Arrested Development. Here, he's Colonel Dillon, a pencil-pushing CIA man who goes along for the ride, but ends up not exactly having the best interests in mind for Dutch and his team.
You're an asset. An expendable asset. And I used you to get the job done. Got it?
The highlight of this movie centers around the Predator hunting down Dutch and his team. One by one, these elite soldiers are picked off slasher movie style. It's impressive because the only other time you see characters picked off this easily is in a horror movie. And in those cases, the characters are usually cliche victims in their underwear who just heard a mystery noise.
Hello? Must be my imagination.
Predator is basically flawless. Everything works. The action, the suspense, the scattered elements of horror and sci-fi, and I have to credit the thumping score from Alan Silvestri, which is like a shot of adrenaline. Of course, I can't really play any of it here because YouTube will copyright strike me into oblivion, but it's awesome. I hear that score and I just get amped. I feel like I've been injected with a gallon of Red Bull and shot out of a cannon. Then there's the Predator, a now iconic movie monster. The first appearance of the Predator worked really well because he was so threatening. He picked off elite soldiers. And we know they were badass, not because we were told so, but because the movie took its time and actually showed us. Even Dutch barely got out of this movie alive. This proves the Predator is a truly worthy adversary. Between the positive reviews and solid box office, there was no way a Predator sequel wasn't getting made. And that brings us to Predator 2. This movie was also written by brothers Jim and John Thomas, except this time around, Stephen Hopkins stepped in to direct. Now admittedly, Predator 2 is not as good as the original, but face it, the movie had a real uphill battle. It was a sequel to such a great movie. Sure, there are some really great sequels that do live up to the original, such as Dark Knight, Aliens, Godfather 2, and Haunted House 2. Many sequels fall short. In the case of Predator 2, it was still a hell of an action movie, and not nearly as bad as some claim. Arnold Schwarzenegger was asked to come back, but he was already busy with Terminator 2 Judgment Day. It worked out for the best though. We got Lethal Weapon star Danny Glover as our new hero, Lieutenant Mike Harrigan. Glover played an LAPD officer neck deep in a violent turf war between Colombian and Jamaican drug cartels. Our setting was changed from a remote jungle in South America to hot and dusty LA. Also, this movie's a bit older, so the future is 1997. Because why not? Aside from some cliche cop scenes which I didn't necessarily need in a Predator movie, there's a lot to like about Predator 2. First and foremost, Danny Glover was awesome. He was great as an overworked cop fighting through insane circumstances. The over-the-top action in this movie really worked for me, and the backdrop of the violent drug war lent itself to some amazing moments. The movie was also directed and shot really well and had great cinematography. There was an impressive panning shot of the police station, which showcased the chaotic world that Glover and his team were entrenched in. We also had a visually impressive final fight between Danny Glover and the Predator. As I've mentioned before, I'm kind of a geek when it comes to consistency within franchises, so the fact that Alan Silvestri returned to score the sequel was yet another plus. Pretty much everything involving this new Predator, who was actually played by the same actor, was handled really well. The writers were also smart enough to give the Predator some new weapons to keep things fresh. This made for some creative and inventive kills. Another positive, Gary Busey was in this. What more do you need?
The next time you cross me, you're gonna turn up missing.
They also expanded on the Predator's mythology, and of course, they gave us the mother of all Easter eggs, the promise of an Alien-Predator crossover. Now, I happen to dislike both Alien vs. Predator movies, so this Easter egg had zero payoff for me. But for a brief moment, it was fun to imagine a great Predator-Alien movie that might someday be made. But it wasn't. Overall, I'd say Predator 2 is pretty underrated. In the past, it was definitely over-criticized, but I feel like it's gotten more appreciation as the years have gone by. As far as ratings go, obviously Predator gets an easy 5 out of 5 Skull Trophies. The sequel, Predator 2, gets a solid 3.5 out of 5 Skull Trophies. Anyway, that's it for me. Let me know what you think of these two movies, and don't forget, hit like and sub. Thanks for watching, I appreciate it. Later.